Hey guys, so in this quick video, I'll be talking about the 5 main paintbrushes that I use and when I use them. So this first main brush that I use, it's a large flat. I use this in the first stages of the painting. I add the main coats of paint onto the canvas with this one, and I either use acrylics or oils. So I would do this for 1, 2, or even 3 coats to make sure that the paint is thick on there and you can't see through it. So these bristles you see, they're pretty tough bristles. So with this type of paintbrush, if you press too hard with paint, it's going to push the other paint underneath it out of the way. So that's why it's good to use this in the beginning stages when you're not too worried about making sure that the paint is thick, but you want to first just cover the canvas with the paint. So you'll be using this paintbrush with these wide and thicker bristles. So with this one, when you add the coats of paint, you want to make sure that the previous coat is dry, so that way once you start to add the second or third coat, that the paint is not going to push the others out of the way. So that's when in the later stages you're going to want to get a softer type of brush with the same size as this one. So unfortunately I actually don't have another brush like this one because I never ended up really buying one. I actually have an older one. This one kind of broke off though, but yeah, it's pretty much the same size, but this one, the edges are softer, so these softer bristles, you want to use these in later stages once you establish the preliminary coats. Okay, moving on to number 2. This is a smaller flat brush. Again, this one has thick and coarse bristles. This one I use in the early stages of the painting as well, and with this one I used to just establish the lines, the main shapes of the main parts of the painting. I never use this one in later stages because this one, again, just like the previous one, it pushes the paint out of the way too much if I press too hard, if I use it too much. So I use this one primarily just to add the main blocks, the main parts of the painting, and nothing really too special or detailed or focused with this one. Okay, so moving on to number 3. This is a round brush, but as you can see with the bristles, they're not so round anymore because they're starting to fade and to come out. But this is the one that I start to use once I get most of the parts of the painting established. So with this one, the paint, it gets on there thicker, in a better, thicker way. So once the coats are on there and well established, I use this one or a larger version of this one to start adding thicker, higher quality layers of paint. So that way, even if you press hard with this one, it's not going to push the paint out of the way too much because the this brush strokes with this one, they're gentler and they're softer. So you'll be having an easier time adding the layers on with this one. With this one, you can still add some of the more basic features on there. You can start to add more of the layers on top of the previous layers. In this one, you can start to get more details on them, more refined details, but not the most like the top-notch details just yet. Those are reserved for more of the smaller ones. With this one, you're still adding like the more basic shapes and colors, but you're just adding more layers of paint, more coats on there, to make sure that the colors are thicker, more vibrant, and more established on there. So that's important to keep in mind too, that the more layers of paint you have, the more coats, the more solid the color is going to be. Because even if you really can't tell from initial glance, if you don't have enough of the main layers of paint, you could kind of see through the layer of paint onto the previous color. So it's not going to really show that true color that you're trying to intend to put on there. So that's why it's important to have multiple layers of paint. Okay, so anyways, moving on to number 4. It's a smaller version of the previous one. It's a small round. And again, the bristles are not that good anymore, but hey, it still gets the job done. But this is the one where you're wanting to start getting the main details on there. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that I use a lot of grids, a lot of grid patterns for my paintings. This is the brush that I use primarily to measure with, to measure where the parts, where all the objects of the painting are going to be in relationship to the rest of the grid pattern. So this is primarily the brush that I use in the most of the time in my painting. And again, the brush strokes are soft, so you can still continue to add more layers on with this one. So yeah, this is the one that I use to begin to add the initial more detailed, refined parts, which is going to be this last and fifth one. This is the one that I used in the very last stages of the painting, when I really start to get the details refined, when all the grid patterns are established, where I don't have to worry about measuring anything anymore. This is like it's like the easiest stage of the painting, but it's the most time consuming, because you have if you know my style of painting, I do a lot of heavily detailed paintings. So I use this one a lot in the last stages, just to sharpen everything, refine everything. And bristles are still pretty soft too, so it's very easy to use this one to gently add layers of paint on top of the other ones, and to gently add the details. And it's also balanced out too, because if you want to, you can move some paint around just in very small, minuscule amounts if you need to push a little bit of paint out of the way. So yeah, these are the main 5 brushes that I use. So it's important to use a diverse variety of them, you know, from the coarse bristles to like the softer bristles. It just depends on when you use them. So that's it, guys. If you like this video, make sure to click that like button. It helps a lot, and subscribe to my channel.